Okay, so once again, welcome to this program. Let me give you, first of all, a little introduction and a brief about, or an overview about what this program is going to be. Okay, so essentially, when we are, this will be of 4 sessions, and what we are going to cover is the entire compensation and benefits. So when we talk about compensation and benefits in session one today, it might be a little more at a psychological level, at a philosophical level, but trying to create uh, the basics of compensation and the concepts of compensation, so that whatever we will build on for the next 3 sessions, you will understand better. So in today, we would be talking essentially about the compensation strategy, then components of a compensation system, and what is this total rewards. Is it connected with compensation, or is this something different which organizations talk about? Okay, and then definitely we'll be talking about the the psychological and the philosophical theory of equity theory, on the basis of which we will be establishing the compensations, the 3 equities, which are called internal equity, external equity, and individual equity. So that's what we are going to talk about today, the concepts essentially. In the second session, then we are getting into the thick of compensation. We say, hey, if these are some of the challenges of organization compensation, be it in India or be it globally, then what are those challenges? How do we assure, or how do you bring in fairness in the way you pay people, which is called internal equity in the organization? So we will be covering an entire, section, which will be talking about job evaluation, starting from, somebody said, job specification, job description, and job analysis. So, and then we'll be talking about some of the methods of job evaluation, like the point method, the job grading method, and we'll also be talking of the elementary methods, which are also pairing method. And of course, we'll link it up with the Hey guide chart profile method, which is almost like a point method. Okay. And then design structures. How are we going to do structuring? Then we are talking about in the session 3, having done all that job work, evaluating the job, then how am I going to then get market data? So how am I going to do market pricing? What is this benchmarking all about? How do you go about it? Even if you have a published data, then how do I interpret that data? How do I use it for my organization? Okay. And if I don't have, then how can I go ahead and collect that data? Especially for startups, etc. You may not have. So this entire session 3 will revolve around it, which will also talk about our employee value proposition. Okay. And in session 4, we are going to talk about how do you establish individual equity, which means there's a difference between internal equity and individual equity. That means when two people are doing the similar jobs, hey, what are the ways in which I can establish fairness? So we are all talking about the variable pays, the different kind of pays. In fact, designing a variable pay. How do you design variable pays? We talk about the long-term benefit incentives, the short-term incentives, what are the various reward programs, etc. And then we will also do a little about the budgeting. How do you do the budgeting? Okay, and in fact, how do you actually implement your reward programs in a organization? Okay, let me actually throw a question at you all. All of you seem to be at some level or the other, having some kind of an interface with compensation, some more, some a little less, etc., including our younger compensation analyst in Chicago. So, first of all, from the employer perspective, from the organization's perspective, all of you are in comp and ben roles or other roles. Why do you think compensation is so important for organizations? You understood my question? Huh? Why is compensation important for us? Yes.
So that we don't do any kind of injustice. First point, and it should be with the market rate, whatever we are going to provide, whatever the profile is, we can evaluate the job profile rightly. So many things are
So
interrelated,
those
I
are
guess,
things,
ma'am.
yeah. So thank you can just call out your name. Was it? I don't know who was it. Okay.
Mitali.
So Mithali, very good. So you said in order to be fair in the way we pay, huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that correct? I mean, all the other things,
Yes.
whatever we do, are the processes or detailing. But ultimately, the goal or the outcome is to be fair in the way we
To
pay.
be
If
fair.
Mitali comes for an HR manager job, what am I going to pay? Somebody else, am I fair in my way of pay? That's right. Okay. Anybody
Yes.
else? What
Em-
else?
Employee
Compensation has to
Not
be
only challenges. What do you think? What do you really want your compensation to achieve? Think about your own organization. Mamta can think about her own organization. Suleiman, in your own organization, what do you want to achieve out of a good compensation?
employee
there
not
should there should be distributive justice in the organization in
Yeah.
respect of the compensation.
So I can actually link Dhruva, if I'm right, it was you, that fairness in the way we pay,
Okay.
right? Fairness means the way we pay internally to various roles, there should be internal equity. You getting me? So that's what you were talking about, distributive justice in the way I'm paying in relation to see how much Mitali is getting in relation to the other jobs in her own organization. It should not be such that Mitali is getting a very low salary as in compared to some other roles which are senior also, but much more in proportion. Much more in proportion. It should be correlating with the effort, right? Okay. What else? What is that we expect
And
out of good
also,
Yeah.
if we
Hmm.
if we connect with the direct and indirect pay, then I can say it will motivate the employee, because if they are performing and we are paying the incentive, they will be highly motivated. So yes,
Okay.
comp and benefit can
Can I
help.
say that yes, I definitely want a compensation which is going to motivate people, because when people are motivated, they will be better engaged. When people are better engaged, that will lead to what?
Retention.
Productivity and retention. Yeah.
Absolutely. Right.
and
So
morale.
this is also one of them, right? So if the acid test for my compensation is that if people are producing better, okay, that means yes, people are motivated. That means definitely my compensation is working, they are motivated. Okay. And also retention. If people are retaining all my critical jobs or other jobs or etc., obviously attrition cannot be there, but definitely if that means they are also highly they're very happy, job satisfaction is very high, they're very happy with the compensation, so retention, right? So as an employer, I want what? Productivity, I want efficiency out of my compensation, the what I pay. Also, not that I will pay any amount. It should be within my budgets. So what? It also fit into my cost efficiencies, right?
Correct.
A salary structure which is aligned with my budgets, not that I can pay any amount. So that is why for every
it should not impact
organization,
company's profitability or bottom line.
exactly, because again, that is linked to affordability in terms of profitability, revenue, bottom line, etc. Right? Okay. So what am I mentioning
Then
about
also
this
as
here?
an employer, then I guess as an employer, I have to think I should make my annexure in such a way so that I can follow the government, all the norms. So that is also helpful for comp and benefit.
Yeah. So therefore, absolutely. So we are talking about government regulations, etc. Okay, right? So therefore,
Yeah.
so here we are talking about the importance of compensation and how important compensation becomes for an organization. So if compensation is so important, just to give you a little more background, then this compensation has to be aligned with what?
Aligned with the
Right? Will you agree? Will you agree
Yes.
that my
Yes.
compensation has to be aligned with business goals, or with business objectives, or with what business. I can also put it here as, right, strategy, because I cannot have a separate like for example, we have a person, luckily we have a person, Amazon, right? What is Amazon's value statement or vision statement? I have some, yeah. Maybe you can say yes, this anything, anywhere, anytime. You agree? Mitali will get, or Dhruva will get up in the at night and say, "Hey, I need this," and he can just go to the Amazon and say, "Okay," and then quickly swipe and say, and the next morning he gets whatever he wants. Anything, anywhere, anytime. Got it? Now, if you want to achieve this, then what will you do? You also need to have a certain business strategy. Then your compensation has to be aligned with your business strategy, so that, like for example, you have logistics, which is very, very critical there. That means your the product has to reach. So you have to devise ways, what kind of people will I have, how much do I pay, will I pay entire fixed pay, or will I pay a deferred pay? So there are various ways of paying it.
Madam, actually, what you have written down, that Amazon, this business statement or the vision,
Right.
anything, anywhere, anytime, as
Yeah.
you rightly pointed out. So from here itself, we can draw the strategy towards the compensation. That how to motivate those people, those who are associated with the
Yeah.
logistics,
So
to
we
deliver
are,
those items.
you're rightly stated, and so we are coming to that. So the point I'm actually trying to make is your compensation cannot be in isolation. Your compensation strategy has to be aligned with the business strategy. Okay. Now, having said that, what are some of the factors? Please listen to my question. What are some of the factors, both external and internal factors, which can impact compensation? Factors.
Talents. Talent can be
Market
one of the
economy.
differentiating factors.
Factors which impact compensation. Yeah, somebody said it.
Market
Economy.
economy,
Absolutely.
ma'am. Yeah.
The
Absolutely.
industry,
Whether it is recession, whether it is inflation, whether it is booming,
Correct.
economy definitely has an impact on compensation.
Yeah.
Then what else?
Yeah.
industry or the line of business.
Absolutely. Line of business. Yeah. In what line of business are you? And depending on the kind of economy, again, it will impact the compensation. Then somebody said, I mean, Dhruva said,
Talent.
talent. So, can I say a little more SUPP?
File, job profile.
Yeah, there are some job profiles, or
Can
there
I
are
say
certain.
supply and demand
Correct.
Yes.
of
Yes.
talent? Huh?
Yes.
Because if there is huge demand for a talent, okay, and the supply is less, what will you do as an employer?
We offer more compensation.
What will you do, Mamta?
Offer more compensation.
You are in a better position to negotiate, right?
Yeah.
For a higher. So obviously, through your market intelligence or competitive intelligence, you will say, hey, this, the demand for these positions or these skill sets is so high that I definitely cannot say, hey, no, I'm going to pay only this much. So you have to be cognizant of the fact that what is the market paying and can I pay a little more? So supply and demand definitely has a huge impact. What else? Technology. Say, for example, if you want to reduce your budgets or you want to pay better to our other critical position, Maybe you will use technology like what is happening today, right? Earlier payroll, if you go to a payroll department, you would have at least 10 or 15 people. Now the payroll is managed by just 1 or 2 people. There are 3, 4 payroll people here. Will you say, will you actually, confirm to my this saying that yes, because of the technology, the number of people in payroll department has gone down considerably? Yes or no?
I agree.
Huh? Because you are using technology. You don't need many hands now, right? In fact, if you go to HRBP, that means in India, we call them HRBP, that is business partners, HR partners who actually interface with the business to take care of the entire employee life cycle, right from onboarding to the entire, exit also. So earlier, there used to be a ratio of 1:150 to 100. Today, one HRBP has to manage at least 700 to 800 people. Yes or no? In a vertical, we are reducing costs because a lot of things have been due to technology. Frequently asked questions. Everything is getting automated. So therefore, the HR business partner actually adds value by counseling, by taking skip meetings and understanding the feelings, etc. Everything which can be done through technology is being automated and being given away, so that they can manage more people. At the same time, you can optimize and your wage cost is a very, very critical thing, and we are going to talk about in compensation. Wage cost, percentage of wage cost to turnover is very, very critical. We'll talk about that metric. Okay, yeah. Anything else? Okay,
Madam,
let
the
me
competitors salary or compensation also have an impact on the type of competition, because a lot of
so
time
competition. So therefore, what you're saying is market,
yeah,
right?
yes.
The market also has a huge impact. Okay. So therefore, when we are talking about, I'm not taking into consideration a lot of factors are there, but today we are going to take just few of them, which are going to be a little critical, and you need to really have a little understanding on them. One is the very importantly, somebody has said regulatory government rules and regulations globally, whether it is in India, whether it is in America, wherever there are certain mandated government regulations wherein organizations have to comply with them. So, say for example, essentially, why do you think you have these government regulations? What if we don't have government regulations with respect to payment of salaries, etc., or payment or with respect to the employment itself? What will happen? What will the employer do? What do you think if there are no mandated government laws, statutory
Could
laws?
be legal implications.
Pardon?
There could be legal implications.
So there is a big scope for the employer to, he will say, hey, I won't even pay by money, currency. I will pay by, barter trading. I can give you a bag of rice, like the earlier times. So, or there is a good scope for what? For the people to exploit. Okay, so typically when we talk about regulations, whether it is in USA, whether it's in UK, there are certain government rules protect the salaries, wages. Okay, then there are certain government regulations to protect in terms of social security, right? And then some in terms of what your conditions, that is where paid leave, etc., number of hours. And of course, you have certain regulations and rules for your cis. So essentially, what happens in India, for some of you who are in India, I'm sure you'll be familiar with what are some of the laws you think, mandated laws for wages, if anybody is familiar. One is Payment of Wages Act. Have you heard of Payment of Wages Act? What does it mean? Payment of Wages Act. It helps you to what?
Like setting the basic minimum wages act. we have to follow the Minimum Wages Act,
So
like
we have
Zone
the
1, Zone
Minimum
2.
Wages Act,
Yeah,
but what is payment of wages act? That means you have to pay by a
On
certain
a
date.
certain date, yes.
Not
exactly.
that you
Yeah,
can pay at any time. And it
correct.
also prescribes you have to pay in currency. Okay? Huh? And a certain time. So it regulates you to pay the amount on a certain time and not at the whims of the employer. Then there is something called the Payment of Minimum Wages Act. What does that say? Some of you who are dealing with all these payroll, etc. What does Minimum Wages Act say?
It
So
prescribes some
it's
certain wage
it's
ceiling for different type of skilled,
skill
semi-skilled,
based.
unskilled. Yes, yeah.
Yeah. So again, in
And
Minimum
state to
Wages
state, it
Act,
will be different.
in Minimum Wages Act, it is little complex in India, not in other countries. What does it state? It has something like skilled, semi-skilled, not skilled, okay, and then industry, and then region or state. So there are so
Zone.
many criteria. Based on that, your payment of minimum wages is fixed. All right. Now, with respect to Equal Remuneration Act, what does it mean? What is Equal Remuneration Act?
Full remuneration
Like if
for
the profile are same, the job profile are same, then it
Irrespective
should
of
not.
gender.
Yeah,
Fairness in
In
the
fact,
pay.
in
There should not
in
be
US,
discrimination.
they are very very particular about fairness in terms of irrespective of whether it is any gender, caste, whatever, because there there are some Hispanics, etc. So you cannot discriminate. If you find, irrespective of whether it is a male or a female who is fit for the job, you will have to pay the same salary. Like, say, for example, a software engineer in our organization, in an IT company. Okay. Now, you have selected Mitali, and then you are saying, hey, I'm going to pay a less salary, lesser than the, Abhijit Dua. You can't do that. As per the Equal Remuneration Act, if you have found that fit for that job, you will have to pay equivalent to what you are paying to the Abhijit. But provided the jobs are the same. But when it comes to, say, for example, when we are talking about, let me give you another example of another industry. In the construction, at the construction site, now males are typically given jobs which are little harder. They may
Yes.
have to do jobs of a L&T guy will know difficult, hard nature. But the females are given jobs of just carrying something much lighter. There you can't say that both of them have to be paid equal wages. Will you say that? No, because the effort put in the job is different. If the nature of the job is similar, then you will have to pay equal salary. Okay. Then let us just look at some of the protection quickly. Protection programs in India, we have the ESI. I'm sure all of you know that it is mandated that you have to actually comply with the ESI. The payroll person will know what is the salary limit. Quick. There are so many people who are there. Huh?
22,000
Absolutely.
into
Great.
22,000.
Okay. Okay. Then what are the other protection? Do you have a choice? Like you have a Provident Fund Act where a
Yeah,
certain percentage of it
they
goes
can
towards the retirees. Okay. Then you have gratuity. Okay. The
these
employer,
these
then
falls under social security, right?
what, Abhijit?
These falls under social security.
Yeah, these are falling under social security. Okay. And then you also have paid leave. As per the Industrial Disputes Act, there's paid leave. You have to give them. Then paid leave of maternity. Now it is 6 months, right? And then apart from that, you have tax structures. Okay. But there is one more act here. It is called the Apprenticeship Act. So, in India, especially, you can take the advantage for all the people who are actually working in India for Indian, locations or not for overseas, that you can take the advantage of this Apprenticeship Act where you can take people as apprenticeship and you get a subsidy from government. And I hope a lot of manufacturing organizations will use this and get subsidy from government. And once this intern is taken for 6 months or 1 year, thereafter, 5% or top 10% of the top performers can be absorbed as permanent employees. Okay. Likewise, if you see in US, this is you have this Equal Pay Act, EPA. Okay. And then you also have the FLSA, which is called the Fair Labor Standard Act, which takes care of, protecting the poor and exploiting in terms of the wages. And you have also the other acts which take care of, just like in India, protection programs, etc. So likewise, you have even in other countries. Then for all those organizations, we have a strong presence of unions, especially in the manufacturing organization. Unions also have a huge impact. They are the ones which actually decide. So what happens is that it is, a win-win approach both for the employer and the employee. Rather than negotiating a one-on-one with the employee, the employers feel that yes, they also, as per the Indian Trade Union Act, you can actually form a union. And wherever the presence of unions are there, so they negotiate, and they are well versed with what the peer companies are paying, and they collectively come to the table, negotiate the salary which is there for 2 years or 3 years. Okay. This is a little important for today's context, in terms of the IT, ITS, and all the other digitized companies, where we say that the demographic and economic and social changes also have a huge impact. Say, for example, let us talk about the sociological changes. You must have actually seen, what do we call it, as a blended working style. This blended working style, gone are the days when people would come, work all their life, and then come in the morning, go back at 5 o'clock, work for 20 years, 30 years. There are some companies like Tata's, etc., which are very old companies and would attract people who are loyal, and they would also take care of them. Today, what's happening? People, want to work. They don't want to work for lifelong. They want to work for 2 years, 3 years, then go on a sabbatical, or maybe study, maybe on a vacation, again come back. So if you notice that, then even your compensation system or your supply and demand for a particular talent is dependent on this blended work styles. So in order to attack this kind of a people, what are organizations doing? Organizations, say for example, what do? If people want to study, and wanting to go off for study, they say, hey, we will give you study leave. Right? How many organizations are not giving study leave? You agree? Huh? Or even internally, they are promoting, they are saying, hey, if we are taking people at a graduate level, we will, help you with your higher studies. We will actually pay some amount, educational loans, or we will give you free loans, but provided you complete. So why is that? Why do you think people are doing that? So that you can retain people, you can motivate people. They don't. So what does it mean? That means compensation system also has to be aligned with what are the kind of changes which are happening in the sociological changes with the blended. So I cannot say no, I will not be. So I have to understand what are my workforce interests, what are their needs, the younger workforce, what are their needs. So how do you get to know the younger workforce needs when you are working in organization? Typically, what we do is we do surveys, understand the pulse, and then trying to form such policies wherein we can actually promote more of this educational benefits. Okay. What is the meaning of portfolio workers? So today, if you notice, a lot of employees, they don't want to work for lifelong. They say, hey, I want to be a consultant, or freelancing. I have become a subject matter expert. So what I will do, I will take up 3 4 organizations, go work there for a few hours and come back. I have my own freedom. Because today the attitude and the needs of people are changing. Okay. Yeah. What is career deceleration? Do you know what is career deceleration? Anybody? Have you heard of the word career deceleration? So, organization, what does it mean? First of all, let me explain you the concept. Today, a lot of workforce is retiring around, 55, early 50s. Now, what they say, hey, we want to achieve certain things in our personal front, some hobbies, etc. But we still have certain hours so that we can spend them gainfully. So, what happens is that these people still want to do something, they don't want to hang up their boots. So, organizations, what should they be doing? How can they take the advantage? Let me give you an example. As the vice president of Tata's, what we explored was in India, we found that especially in the ITES sector, there's a huge attrition once once the employee reaches a TL or a TM level. It was a huge cost because churn, and you know how it is that high attrition is high cost because you need to again train people and the recruitment costs are so high. So we wanted to look at alternative ways of doing something which is sustainable. So we looked at people, especially army officers who would take an early retirement. And we also looked at bank officers who typically would retire at 50, 55, early retirement. Now, healthy people who are actually there doing very well, and then checking on their mental abilities as well. We said that, they were coming at much lesser cost, and also they had maturity, discipline, integrity. Now, we did not have to pay high salaries for the reason that they were also getting some kind of a pension, some salary. So they were not looking at, hey, I need to get high salaries, just like the TLs or TMs who are very, very young and at a life cycle where they had to marry or their expenses were huge. So they were always looking at hike in salaries, which was not sustainable for us. So we looked at this alternative pools where it really worked very well, sustainable, and there was much less attrition. So what I'm trying to drive at is that we as competent persons, we cannot always look at the same solutions which organizations are looking at. We need to look at alternative ways of, especially somebody said, supply and demand. So I cannot keep hiking my salaries. What happens if I'm going to increase my salaries? Tell me, what happens? If I'm all the
Company
time,
cost,
huh?
company cost will be increased if I increase the salary.
So wage cost is, so all the payroll guys, they know that payroll will go up. Well, if the payroll will go up, what is the offset? What is the impact on the profit?
Profitability will
Profit will go less.
decrease.
And for CEO, what is the key metric which is important? He will call up all
Right.
the business heads and say, why is the profit coming down? Right? Huh?
Yeah.
Or see, if you go and even ask for one full-time employee confirmation, I want to, he'll say, but why do you need a full-time employee? Because it's cost. Okay. Or if I'll say during the annual increment, I want to give 6% increment, but why do you need to give 6%? How much of wage cost will it increase? So to offset that, what are you planning to do? Because if you keep on increasing increments and wage cost, then my profit is going to come down. What will I be? I'm answerable to the shareholders, right? Huh? So you have to have benchmarks. So therefore, a competent person challenge is, hey, how do I attract the right kind of people, motivate them, and also retain them with a structure which is affordable, at the same time, which will also engage people. That's the interesting thing, right? So we will talk about it. How does one do? And that is what makes a competent person, different from the normal competent persons. Okay. Of course, we talked about demand and supply, which is a very key role. So we have to understand when you're talking about demand and supply, I want to ask from you all. So 60% of your workforce, say for example, you are attracting, say Java skill sets, okay? And it's become suddenly in demand because a lot of organization, the mom and pop shops have come and they are, sourcing these skill sets. Now, as a result, the supply has really shrunk and demand has gone up. So typically when you know that year on year you have to take these people, what will you do as a compensation person? Or you will suggest you still want to keep the wage cost low? Let me tell you. As a senior vice president for Sutherland Global, we had a challenge. There is this vertical called medical coding. I don't know how many people are familiar with this. What does medical coding do? They actually digitize the images of the patients, X-rays, etc., and then they code them because the payer companies. When we say payer companies are the insurance companies, when they actually pay on this coding. Okay, and a very profitable now, since it also involved, a process which is highly technical and the supply was very short of, highly in demand. There were many mom and pop shops would keep coming up in medical coding, and they would poach our staff. Now, can we continue to hike the salaries? What will happen? We'll have to close down very much. It won't be affordable. So, what did we do? We then started medical coding schools. What did we do? Then we started recruiting a lot of doctors. It could be homeopathy, it could be sciences, because essentially we needed people who would understand the human body. So we recruited these people, put them into training, and then for 1.5 year to 2 years, after 1.5 year of training, then we would give them a 2 year or 3 years. We would actually, put them in a retention plan so that what would happen then? They wouldn't leave. So we know that at least for 3 years, we have a steady supply of talent. You getting me? So what does it mean for a competent person? Has to work with the talent acquisition person and say, hey, if these are the jobs which are constantly, or all the time, the demand is there. How can I create again a talent pipeline? So typically, what do IT companies do? Can they go and buy from the market? Plug and play? No, because they're very high cost. So what do? They go to the campuses, recruit people, put them in a boot. They do a lot of training, create a pipeline. Because when you know, based on your human resource planning, if these are the number of positions required, you are creating a pipeline so that you don't have to buy from the market. Make sense, guys? Huh? So when you go back, also you have to understand, do I have such kind of scenarios where I really need to then create a pipeline? Yeah. Any questions? Am I too fast? Because I thought, I wanted to cover more ground. Huh?
No, it's perfectly fine.
No, it's fine.
Okay.
And this is a talent, this philosophy of rewards and the compensation. It's closely
Yeah.
aligned with the companies, the recruitment policy also. Like we are hiring thousands of GETs and DETs every year
Absolutely.
in order to create the talent pipeline. And they
Right.
are initially for 1 year or 2 years, these are the or cheaper assets.
Because you also have to align this with your training, L&D.
Yes.
So that you are training them and you're creating your human capital readiness, what I call them, right?
Correct,
Huh?
correct.
So in 1 year, so much, to second year, third year. So you cannot be caught off guard that, hey, I don't have talent, so I have to go and buy from the market. Unless and until it is a very, very unique position, unique talent. And suddenly you don't have that kind of a supply at all in the market. Now, there
I
is
have
also
one small question. Can I ask?
Yes, Abhijit. Yeah.
What is the basic difference between this portfolio workers and career declaration? Because I found it to be almost same. It's basically part-time working or kind of a retainership kind of an arrangement where somebody is not working full-time but working on a project basis. So what
Yeah.
is the one basic difference between the two?
Yeah, the distinct difference between two portfolio workers could be young. They are young people, 35, 40, having gained subject matter expertise, and say, hey, now enough is enough. I want to now become a consultant or a free-time consultant for 3 or 4 IT companies and go on a retainership. Okay. But here in career deceleration also, it is similar. But here it's the age group that people
Understand.
who career acceleration. That means people who have actually taken early retirement, etc.,
Or are at the
who
fag
want
end of
to
their
be back.
career.
Yeah. So, for example, let me tell you, it will be very, very proper, a very apt example. I'm sure some of you, if you are familiar with Andhra Pradesh and Hyderabad, would know. Now, there was this big group called Satyam Group. Okay. Satyam Group. And for the others, like who are in Dubai, USA, and all, it's a big IT company. Now, this IT company was having a public partnership. Okay. It had 2 companies called EMRI, Emergency Medical Research Institute, and HMRI, Health Medical Research Institute. Okay. What was EMRI? EMRI was actually what kind of a service was it giving? Saying to the public, if you call a number called 108, immediately there would be a ambulance which would come up and it would reach you to the nearest hospital, thereby not, helping them reduce that critical time. And this was done through a call center. Got it? Now, what was HMRI doing? What was the aim of this HMRI? Health Management Research Institute. Again, the vision of this HMRI was to help, reach what? Health advice even to the furthest, deepest part of the villages. That means remote. So they would actually get into tele counseling, telemedicine through you. All that you needed to do was just call up 104, which is a call center line. Like, even in USA, you have a number, and there would be a doctor who would question, ask, and give you medicine, help you with the medical advice, etc. Run by doctors. So HMRA was run by doctors. Now, in this call center, which was about say 150, 200, it was set up as a pilot in 2 places in Hyderabad. Now, had all young doctors, 25 to 30 MBB. So, graduate doctors, postgraduate doctors. Now, there was huge attrition. Okay, in 3 months, 6 months. What were the aspirations of these young doctors? A, they would come and look at it as a parking space because they wanted to go for higher education or go to, abroad to get more studies or get preferably government jobs. Because, for a doctor working in a call center, you would feel it as a downgrade. Okay. Now, how do you think those people, because I was closely associated in helping them do this work. So what did we do? We then help them to first of all identify the right kind of talent from the government hospitals who were super specialists, all with the huge domain experience, specialist experience, who were retired doctors and who are good in health. But we did not take them. Now, we did not take them. We reduced the salary by 50%. We then did some kind of a job redesign. We did not ask them to come for 8 hours. We said, hey, you just work for 4 hours. Because old people, they can't, 4 hours. We made 2 shifts. Then we gave them a pick and drop facility as well. Okay. And we said, hey, on Saturday and Sunday, you can also come spend the time in the cafeterias, bring your family, etc. Now I'm actually reducing the short to cut it short. So it was a win-win approach where the doctors knew everybody, a lot of them. There was good camaraderie. The doctors had their own pensions and families were settled, so their key motive was not for salary. Okay. C, because they were having a pick and a drop, it was very convenient for them. All right, no attrition at all. But think of the productivity. When the young doctor took 15 minutes, these older doctors took only 6 to 7 minutes. There was productivity efficiency because they had huge knowledge. Okay, so they were able to diagnose. So productivity increased. We may be paying less and little more benefits, but what happened was, yeah, in the long term, it was a win-win approach for us. So their career deceleration helps. Like for example, if you look at some of the organizations, a youngster, say for example, I don't know about Mithali, but if I ask somebody else, 2 or 3 years HR person, go to the PF office, get this all done, she wouldn't know what to do, where to do, what challan, etc. Right? Rather, what are we doing? We are taking retired PF commissioners or etc. who will do everything for you for some kind of a retainer fee. You agree? There is
Yes.
accuracy, there is everything, because if you do all this, penalties will be very high if there are any kind of inaccuracies. So rather than using a youngster full-time employee, you use a retainer who's perfect at the work.
An expert in this.
Correct.
Yeah. So that's where your career deceleration helps. Okay. That helps
Thank
you,
you.
Abhijit, in your understanding. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Globalization technology. Typical, of course, these days. So how do you think? Anybody who can tell me how was the impact and how did we actually get ahead in globalization? How can compensation benefit or how does it impact? Quick. For example,
Yes,
what is
moonlighting
the
has been one of the area which
moonlighting is a
globalization
I
separate
helps.
guess
area.
moonlight is different.
I
I
won't
guess
mix
it
it
is
up
different.
here now. If you don't mind,
Yeah, it's
Deepa, we will
different.
talk about it, moonlighting. Yeah, but yeah, let me talk to Sirisha. Sirisha, what is the salary of a software engineer in US?
It depends on the role. Yeah, what comes to my mind is like this happened during the
Average.
COVID,
Yeah.
COVID time. Like the employers were like, yeah, people can work from anywhere. Like, why can't we get someone from India to do the same work instead of people in the US? So
Good.
that was the
Yeah.
approach, but that
Yeah.
doesn't work in all circumstances. Yeah, that was the approach what the employers were looking at.
Typically, on an average, if I were to talk, so a software engineer anywhere between $60,000 to $80,000, right? Typically, an average. I'm talking about an average, or a little more. Now, if because of the technology and globalization, what have Indian companies been doing? They have outsourced those jobs to India, where you can actually get an engineer. Tell me at what? Our Indian HR people will tell you. What is the salary you can get for? It can start anywhere from 3 to 4 lakhs also. Subha, will you agree? Anybody who will disagree with me? Abhijit?
Yes,
Ma'am,
Huh?
we agree.
yes. At
Huh?
least 3 to 4 lakhs, we will
And
not get it from the premier institute, but at least from the tier 2 or tier
I
3, we
think,
can always
yeah,
get.
it can start. Okay. So, and depending on what kind, it can also go up to 10. Okay. So, what I'm trying to say is that because of globalization technology, what has happened? People mobility was there always. People were going and working. But because of this, there is mobility of job. What I typically call it as what? Now, you're shifting the job from a high cost area to a low cost area. That's what has been happening now. Most of the time for the last 2 decades. So we've been getting jobs and we've been, sourcing all the jobs here and captive BPOs and even most of the IT work has been shifted here if we can get it at a lesser. And this has happened only because of technology. But when you do this, what happens? You are sometimes when you are also using technology and automation, you are actually then using up that budget for paying jobs which need higher salary. Now, let me tell you guys, across USA, okay, so much, but I've seen it in Europe, all over. What technology and use of automation is so much because the cost of labor is so high that when you actually check in, check out, at the airports, you will just find one person there. Other than security, everything you will have to do it and it's all automated. What? Because the wage cost, labor cost is very, very high. So everything has been automated. Now, here I want to introduce you to one particular concept called economic tripwire. Okay, it's a very interesting concept which is related to globalization and technology. Anybody who can make out something? So what is tripwire? Now, very funny example. You will have 10, you know, machines in your house, AC, two ACs and washing machine and dishwasher, but your load cannot take that. What happens then? Electricity gets stripped, right? Now, here, when you talk about economic tripwire, when I'm outsourcing a job, now what happens sometimes? There are many others who also then increase the salary. So maybe I have started the job at 5 lakhs, 6 lakhs, say for example, a medical coder. Then because of the other mom and shops, so I'm again increasing it to maybe a 6 lakhs or a 7 lakhs. I keep increasing it a little more. But the growth in the salary cannot keep happening because if it is not correlating with my profits. So there is something called an economic tripwire. That means I cannot go beyond that. Are you with me? Have you understood that? So that means I will not outsource that job or I will not do that because it is not simple as that.
Can you just once again repeat, madam?
Yeah, I
Okay.
also cannot understand.
Okay. Economic tripwire applies to jobs which, when you outsource, what is outsourcing? That means you're shifting a job from a low cost, a high cost to a low cost. Got it? That means you are paying much lesser salary to a particular job, which, in other words, you may have to pay a very high salary. Got it? For example, from USA, what we do, we shift a lot of jobs, coder, this job, other jobs, where we say, hey, in India, if you go to tier 2, tier 3 cities, we can get much lesser workforce, which can be paid much lesser. But what
Ma'am,
happens? Yeah.
I have a question here.
Who is this, Nitin?
Definitely, yes, ma'am. Definitely,
tell
we
me.
understand the shift that happens from, let's say, I have examples like Revolut is one of the companies which is now extremely hiring at the moment, just to shift from processes from UK to India.
Right.
It's a kind of organization similar to American Express. Now, I want to take example of my own profile, and this is something that I always wanted to know how we differentiate between the salaries the person is getting in US and the salary that an Indian employee is getting. I really do not have that knowledge. I want to understand more on that. If you can cover
We'll
that.
definitely talk about it, but yeah, it almost correlates with the. So, first of all, why do I want to shift? There are companies which are saying that I can do this business, or people are also setting up their own captive centers, right? It can be done through a third party, or it can also be done by a same company where you have captive centers, where it is the parent company which has set up a center and recruiting the local workforce at a much lesser cost. Why do you do it? Because you want to earn more profits. Simple. It's a question
Yes.
of wage cost.
Yes.
Just give me a thumbs up, then I will proceed. Huh? Just give me a thumbs up that you have understood this. You're shifting the job because it gives you what? A benefit of paying lesser, and therefore you can have more profit. Simple. Now, but because for certain circumstances it has become hot and you are not able to get your workforce the same, your talent at the same cost, it is costing you higher and higher. To what extent will you go? There is a level to which you will say, hey, okay, maybe I will take lesser profits, lesser margin, little lesser. There is up to a certain level, you will say, okay. But after that, you will say, no, it doesn't really work for me. It is not viable. That is called the economic wire. Are you with me? So then you say, hey, it's no point doing the business because it doesn't help me to do the business because it's not profitable. Is this very clear now? Please. Yeah. Now, Nitin asked me one question, interestingly, and it might apply to all of you because we have this, benefit of doubt that, hey, if the UK process is shifting, then will I be getting paid as much as a UK person? Is that the question, Nitin? Simple as that? Nitin?
Yes, yes. So what is happening? Let's say for my profile for a case manager, the salary is between 10 LPA or 9 LPA to 13 or 14 LPA annually, right? But wherein the same profile in US, it's getting 54 or 60 lakh of amount annually. That is
Yeah,
an
when you're
Indian.
when you are converting into
I guess
Indian rupees, you will say, wait, I'll tell
Yes.
you. So therefore, what happens? First of all, if I have to pay you the same amount, why should I shift the job? That's one. Okay.
correct.
B,
Correct.
how does this compensation, global compensation work? First of all, every, like for example, if the job is in this geography, I will actually compare it with the similar skill sets and a comparable companies. What are they paying? And if I, as a compensation philosophy and strategy, will say, hey, I want to pay better than the market, I might increase it by 10% or 15%, as in compared to the other companies who are employing the same skill sets and paying the salary. Are you with me? But they are not going to pay you UK salary, because when you say globally, different geography, different location,
Geography. Yeah.
that there the market practice, there the benchmarking is different, there the cola is different, the cost of living is different, everything is different, right? Nitin,
And
are
I
you
guess
getting me now?
In India,
I,
When
labor charges is less.
So, no. So, when you are comparing salary, so if the job is here, you are going to be compared. That's called benchmarking. So, you will compare that job with similar skill sets and similar jobs of companies who are employing such people. And if you want them to be those comparators, you will look at their. And that's how you will benchmark and say, hey, if I want to be a better employer, I might pay a little more than that. Are you with me, Nitin?
I am
Madam,
with you, ma'am.
Okay.
madam,
But
there are
wait, can I just complete this, Dhruva?
yeah,
But
yeah.
having said that, particular level, at a top management level, CEOs, CXOs at a top management level, then what happens because of the job evaluation part which we do, then the base salary becomes almost common, irrespective of which location you are. Are you with me? Okay. There are certain other what is it allowances which then add on to or increase or decrease your salary. Like for example, Shell has a presence across the globe. Now, how do you think they will be paying their employees? Say, for example, a Shell employee has been shifted to Dubai. Should he be paid the same salary? Or if a person is in Dubai and he shifted here, should he be paid the same salary what he was getting in Dubai?
No.
Correct? So what happens in the components? I will explain to you a little more further, but I just wanted to give you because Nitin has asked, and definitely when we are doing that part of it, market and compensation structuring, I will go a little deeper. So what happens when you divide your components? That's where then you start making those mixes. Are you with me, Nitin? Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
So I will give you, I know, because typically that's the feeling you get. Hey, that person is getting so much. So why shouldn't I be getting that much? I shouldn't be asking. Like, say, for example, a compensation analyst asks Risha, she would be getting around, say, if not I'm wrong, anywhere between 100 and $110,000. Agreed? So, Risha?
Not
92,
really.
no, or 98 list, right?
Sorry,
Or
ma'am.
80, because compensation analyst, the salaries, range that kind, or maybe 80. But if you were to translate that into Indian rupees, you
Yeah.
say, hey, a compensation analyst will get just about 8 to 10 lakhs here. Do you
Yeah,
know the
got
salary of a compensation analyst? It's just about 8 lakhs or at best 10 lakhs, not more than that. So, therefore, what happens is you cannot translate, like Nitin said, when I translate that money, when I convert that money into Indian rupees, is so much. So, will I be getting that? So, we will be talking a little more on that a little later when I explain the component part of it. Okay. Is that all?
Ma'am, I
Is
have
that
a
okay
small
with you all?
question.
All good? All good?
Yes,
I
ma'am.
have
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So have you understood this economic tripwire?
No, there are certain stages are there: chaotic, rapid growth,
Yeah,
consolidation.
I want to explain that. First, I was saying economic tripwire. Now, what are we saying this? So, whenever you actually outsource the job, so initially what happens, you are paying at a much lesser salary because there are just few companies, there is not much of, it just started, startup shows. Okay. But as you keep growing, then there is some amount of consolidation which has happened. And then the business is stagnates. Stagnation means it reaches some kind of a majority level where you don't want to increase the salaries because it does not make sense for you, because there is not your margins of profit are reducing. Okay, so this is a kind of a cycle or a curve which takes place when you are outsourcing a job, which is also directly impacting what the kind of positions you are outsourcing and the supply and demand in that typical location or region from where you want to hire.
No, this is the mobility impact on salary structure, right, madam?
Pardon?
This is the mobility impact on the salary structure, right?
No. Mobility means what is it? Just um, uh, pushing that job from high cost to low cost. Got it? Mobility
Okay,
means,
okay,
okay.
okay.
Now, impact is dependent on, say, for example, I was the only company, but there are 3 more companies which have started in the same. So that means the demand for that position has gone up, skill sets. So I have to pay a little more.
Yes.
Okay. So it links with that supply and demand of also those positions. Okay. Okay, guys. Great. So what we just spoke in the last module was, so some of the external factors which play a crucial role or which impact in designing the compensation system. Now let us talk about what is compensation, and we will look at components of compensation system. Why is it important? And also we'll look at equity theory. Okay. Yeah. So when I say compensation, what does it mean to you? Anybody? What does it mean to you? When I say, hey, compensation, what does it mean to you?
Ma'am, providing financial aid.
Hmm? Okay. Anybody else wants to take one more person?
The remuneration
Want to
paid,
get some discussion? Huh?
against the remuneration paid to an employee for the
Okay.
service or the job he or she has rendered.
Yeah. So essentially, what it means is that you get something both in terms of what? It could be either monetary, like you get in cash, or it also could be in non-monetary in terms of perks or benefits or etc. But why do you get them? Because you put in some effort, right? You bring in some skills, competencies. This is all in return for the performance or for the effort you have put in, right? Everybody agrees on this? Okay.
Yes.
So broadly, let us understand this is where it is, and then for most of you, what is the difference? So when people said I'm doing payroll for so many people, etc., what do you do essentially? You are actually looking at all the elements, components, making deductions, doing things, and then you have no control over, can I change this component? Can I change this component? No. But as a compensation person, now you will strategize what kind of a structuring should I have. So first of all, let us get an understanding of what are the components of compensation system. So broadly, when we talk about, let me use a broadly, when we talk about a compensation system and the components of a compensation system, they are, can I just clear it off? Clear. Yeah. Text. So broadly, can I say direct pay? And I will see here indirect pay. Okay. So when we talk about compensation, direct pay and indirect pay, broadly they are classified. So what is direct pay? It's all about, anybody?
Salary.
Cash.
Cash.
Yeah,
Yeah.
salary.
The fixed component.
We'll come to that. Okay, I'll put here. I'll put it here. Okay. Somebody said salary. All right. Sorry. Okay. Then I think Dhruv said fixed component. Okay. Okay. All right. I'm just saying. What is indirect pay? Anything which is related with non-monetary. I can also say non-cash, non-monetary, right? This is cash is monetary. Now, having said that, you can say, but ma'am, in indirect pay, I also get provident fund gratuity, right? But when I say direct pay, cash within a reasonable time, 2 years, 3 years, okay? But whereas your gratuity you will get only after you leave the organization, etc. All right. So broadly, compensation is classified into direct pay and indirect pay. As you can see now, let's go to this now. Oh, sorry. Why is it going on with writing down and down? Okay. Direct pay and indirect pay. So Dhruv was mentioning direct pay is also based fixed component. Now, when we talk about a direct pay, there are three components in it. One is the base pay, which is also called what? The fixed component,
Salary.
variable pay, and deferred pay. Okay, let us actually go a little more deeper in this. Let me use a board so that you will understand. And also the question of why should I? Okay. Now tell me, why should I have these components? Anybody? Why should I break them up into components? Why can't I give Abhijit Datta 1 lakh rupees consolidated amount rather than breaking up into components? Tell me. Or why
For
can't I give?
example, for example, like everyone's job profile are not same. For example, like in marketing department or in recruitment department, it's like they're target related. So if I pay some, performance link bonus or something, in that case, apart from salary, they will be highly motivated. So I guess based on their job profile, based on the industry, we are giving the salary components in different.
Okay. Anybody else?
If we give a consolidated amount and as per statutory rules and regulation, if we have to pay PF and gratuity, then the burden on the organization would be much higher if they pay the PF or gratuity on the entire amount. So they break up into various components like basic, HRA, conveyance, allowance, so that employee can also get tax benefits on HRA, and at the same time, organization can also contribute to PF and other deductions on a lesser amount.
Absolutely. Okay. Also, so why there are so many things about it. Why shouldn't we be giving just a solid amount, fixed pay? And why should we break up into so many components of direct pay, indirect pay, or what it is called non-monetary, monetary? Because A, One is, as rightly stated by Dhruva or Abhijit, it will attract, say, if I'm going to give 50,000 rupees, if that's the salary, it's going to attract tax. The entire amount is going to attract tax.
Correct.
Now, under the tax law, there are certain exemptions. For the HRA, there is something like 40 to 50% if you have, there is a tax exemption, right? For the conveyance, for the medical. So therefore, you need to break this your fixed salary so that you can actually take the advantage of a deductions. Tax exemptions, what we call them as, right? A. Then, like somebody else said, if I'm going to have 50,000 rupees, my entire thing will attract PF and gratuity and all that. So, what will happen? My net, what I get in the hand will become so little. Agreed? Okay? Now,
Right.
huh?
Right.
That's the third part is I want to give the employee salary, but if it's going to attract a tax, what's the point? I might as well break it up and give him into benefits or certain other things where it will not attract. So that means again help him in reducing the cost. For example, there's a cost benefit also. For example, say there is a health insurance. So typically, what is the practice in your organizations? Most of the organizations, they extend it to their family members also, right? Health
Yes.
insurance.
Yes.
Huh? Why can't the employee buy it individually? What happens if he buys it? There is an increase of premium. But when you buy it as a bulk, there's a reduction of cost. So what does it do? What are the organizations doing? They are taking up the health insurance and saying, hey, if you want to include your members, you can also pay, there is certain percentage you need to pay. You with me?
Yes, ma'am.
Benefit. Then, third, when you are giving back benefits, you are also becoming what? Why are these most of the people saying, I want to join, what is it, Google, huh? I want to join so and so company. Why do you think they are wanting to join? Huh?
Because of their parts and benefit apart from their salary even.
Employer of choice branding. So can you do a
Correct.
lot of benefits you can actually give to the employee without he actually buying them, huh? And you are able to attract and motivate. Agreed?
Right.
Huh? You also give a lot of benefits where how do you become an employer of choice? Because they may, in cost terms, they not be much, but the employee sees value. Got it? He sees value. Okay. Before I actually, now you may say, yeah. So why this, what it is called components of compensation? A, you should know what they are. And B, why is it important? This compensation structuring is very, very important because they also form a part of your compensation strategy. Are you with me? Huh?
Yes, ma'am.
For example, if I want to have a high performance strategy, which I'll explain, there is a component which is called variable pay. I might increase that variable pay, right?
That is the meritocracy. Promote the
Yeah.
meritocracy.
Meritocracy, depending. So what I call it as, now I will introduce that. What I call it as pay mix. Have you heard of pay mix word? What
Yes,
kind of
yes.
components will you have as a mix? Or if I want to have a high retention strategy, maybe not for all, maybe for few, I'll have certain things, some benefits, something extra, right?
This
Like
retention
a
bonus,
project allowance
retention
for a
bonus.
site manager, L&D, Dhruva. Yeah, the site manager in an infrastructure, very, very important. So if he has taken up a project for 3 years, he has to stay. So I might say, hey, high project allowance I will have, right?
No, another thing is that if the project is profitable, we are getting that project team will getting this performance, this project completion bonus. Suppose the project is for the 3 years duration, but they have completed it within 2 years. So
You
the
get much more
profitability,
bonus because they have
yeah,
completed before time.
yes,
So what is this all about? Depending on your strategy, what is that goal you want to achieve, etc. You can't have the same kind of a compensation for everybody, for
yes,
across the organization. You can
right.
have it for different levels, different bands, etc. So having said that, let us just look at what are the components of a compensation system in general. Then we will talk about when we are structuring, how to structure and what components we should have. So just look at the direct pay itself. Base pay. What is base pay? Base pay is nothing but guaranteed pay. Let me use, what is base pay? Guaranteed pay. I'll write it here. That means base pay means guaranteed pay. So when I am hired for a particular job, there is certain amount of salary, whether I work substandard or whether I work maybe in a better manner. But yes, having got a contract for a particular job, the employer will say, this is an amount which you will get month on month, irrespective of anything. No contingency, no condition, you will get this salary. Got it? That is called guaranteed pay. Now, how do you arrive at guaranteed pay for different roles? It's a process, a technique which is called job evaluation. Base pay is what? You arrive at base pay by doing job evaluation. Got it? Just give me a thumbs up, guys. We'll be doing in detail after that. Okay. This is called guaranteed pay. Now, I have written here salary and wages. Typically what happens, salary is a person whose salary is credited every month. Okay. Wages is people who actually work on an hourly basis. Got it? That's the difference. That's all. Now, this, when I do a little more in the next session, where I'll talk about how this structuring happens. How do we break up this base pay? Say, for example, I gave you that example as well at that point of time. Say, if somebody has to get, okay, let me just use this. If somebody has to get 50,000 rupees guaranteed pay, and I pay the entire amount, it will attract what? Tax, right? It will attract PF, everything. But then what will I do? I will take into consideration the country's statutory regulations in terms of tax and say, at least for India, then I will break this up into quickly, guys, payroll guys. Tell me.
Base,
First of all, I will break it up into
basic, HR,
basic.
Basic, then
This,
HR.
this basic should not be more than 40 to 50% of that fixed pay component, right? Okay. Then,
HRA,
right?
HR.
And then you have standard deduction today, which covers both medical and conveyance
Conveyance
of
allowance.
40,000, right?
Miscellaneous
Okay.
allowance.
So you break that down, and everything after you put down everything which gives you tax exemption, then there is a component called what?
special allowance,
Which attracts
tax.
tax. Okay. Got it? Okay. We will do an exercise sometime later, uh, giving an example and how do you actually do a structuring and all that. Okay. Next, go to variable pay. As the word suggests, variable pay. So what does it mean?
It's not a one-time payment, kind of one-time payment.
Is it one-time payment? So as the word suggests, variable. That means what?
It is
Paid
linked to
is from
performance.
Performance bonus could be variable
Yeah.
pay.
So varies. That means there is a contingency. It varies. Variable pay.
Yeah.
If you get 100 rupees today, this month, you may not get 100 rupees, you may get 500 also, or you may not get anything
Correct.
also. So there is a contingency. So it is based on something. It is not guaranteed. Now, when you talk about variable pay, in general, there are 4 categories. The most common category is performance pay. Work more and you will get more. A classic example of a performance pay is what?
Sales incentive. Sales.
Right? Sales commission, no? At an individual level. At an individual level. Okay. So performance pay can be at an individual level. That means when salespeople actually achieve their targets, they get certain amount of commission, which is predetermined. They know how much they will get. If they make 100 units, they'll get this much. If they make 150 units, they'll get this much. It's predetermined. Then it depends on how much they make, and then they will get that amount. Okay, at an individual level. Performance can also be at a team level. Yes or no? That means
Yes.
you will actually group people. There's certain quotas which you have to finish work and all that with the team work. So you will actually then incentivize at a team level. You can also have at a
Company.
departmental level or a location level, right? And you can also have it at a organization level. Okay. Now, typically what happens when you are having a performance pay or a bonus at an organization level, what is it called?
Profit.
Profit sharing. Profit sharing.
Wow, I think he gets a lot of money, profit share. So your organization is giving you a lot of profit, huh? So it's
Yeah,
called profit sharing. That means that after the accounts are done, etc., certain percentage of the profit is shared across all the levels, depending on base salary, etc., etc. Got it? That does not mean that everybody gets the same amount. At the location level, there is also something called at an operation level.
Yeah, we are having this locational because we are having the project sites in the remote locations. So there we called it at a hardship allowance.
We'll come to that. We'll come to, but there's a difference. So don't get mixed up. Just keep that there. Park it. I will come to that hardship. At a location level, if a department or a location or a unit, they want them to increase their productivity, what do they have? What is it called? What is it called?
Gain sharing.
Gain sharing. Has anybody heard of it?
Yes.
Gain sharing is different from profit sharing. Profit you'll get only at the end of the year when the books are all balanced. But gain sharing month on month, what happens? They will actually go based on the trends and the month on month productivity indexes and how much you want to achieve. They'll fix a productivity index. This is the productivity you have to achieve. Then, in order to have a collaborative approach, in order that the entire location team people will collaboratively work together and increase the productivity. So they will also put some kind of a what KPIs with reference to material used, with reference to time, with reference to certain other things which are very, very important, all the inputs, so that the productivity increases. You will see this mostly in manufacturing organizations. Now, of late, even the IT organization has also started. Why do you think this is there? Because they've realized that there are a lot of things which you need across the location or a unit. It needs the collaboration of everybody. So they will do this, and the gains are proportionately shared as a percentage. Okay, guys?
And it
Very
also
clear?
it also depends on the management levels. Like
What
those
did I
who
say
are
that? Yeah. What did I say? I said that it doesn't mean that everybody gets the same amount.
yes.
Okay. same amount. So it depends on the level, grade, and everything. But gain sharing is that whether the entire unit has reached its productivity. That is the objective. So everybody works together so that there's a win-win kind of a thing. Got it? Okay. Now, we will do a little more when we are doing this variable pays. But here I want to just give you a little more understanding. Say, for example, HR, because all of you are familiar with HR. Okay. So, recruitment. Huh? When a recruiter, when I have a variable pay for him, that means what? The number of positions he closes, right? Huh? So there's a huge scope for him to do what? I mean, get his variable pay, because if he tries hard, then at the kind of cost and time, lead times, SLAs, he can. And a payroll guy, typically, what does he do? He works on a payroll, and what will be his KPIs? Ensuring that there is zero, error, and 100% accuracy, etc., etc. So notice the scope for a recruiter in terms of what? Stretching and getting variable pay is higher. But whereas for a payroll guy, he can only work to the extent that, yes, this is this software or a platform, and he will have to input all the data and reduce the error rate. So what is this called actually? It's called job elasticity. Very important to understand this. I'll give you a little more example on this and help you quickly. Say, for example, there is a very small grocery shop near your house. Okay? Grocery shop. Grocery shop. Now, these people are employing two sales guys. Okay? Now, this sales guy, an average guy, will perform, say, 100 units. I'm giving a number. All right? And a top performer will do 200. Sorry. Yeah. 20. I'll put it here. Wait 1 second. A top guy will do 200. Okay? That means even if an average guy will sell 100 units, but even a top performer, even if he sells to any extent, he can sell maximum 200 units. Now look at an insurance sales agent. Insurance agent. Now, an average guy, a sales guy, if he sells 100 units, a top guy will sell 500. What does it mean? That an agent has more job elasticity. That means able to stretch. If he stretches more, he can sell more. So when you design a variable pay, you also have to take into consideration, what is it? Does the job have the scope for actually stretching? A lot many times in the HR department, people will say, why do you have higher percentage of variable pay for the HR PP? There is no scope for it. Are you with me now?
Yes.
Huh? The recruiter can have a higher variable pay, but we can't have more higher variable pay because our job does not have the what? Scope for stretching and achieving those variable pay percentages. Have I been able to make that point? When we are designing, what we need to understand is job elasticity. Say, for example, in an organization, what are those functions which will have more job elasticity to make variable pay, where we can have higher percentage of variable pay in an organization? Which functions?
Sales.
Operations, anything. Sales, production. Are you with me?
Yes.
But whereas if I put a more higher percentage for a finance guy, do you think it will be proper? An accounts guy, if I have higher percentage, 20% of variable pay for an accountant, do you think it will be appropriate? He will say,
No, no.
work for me is this only, but if you are putting higher variable pay, what is it? Huh? So you need to understand that whenever we are designing performance pay, we also have to look at this, the elasticity of the job. Is it clear, guys? This is very important. So
Yeah,
I thought I
ma'am,
must.
one question I am having,
Hmm.
just for my academic interest.
Hmm.
Sales, you were talking about that the sales guy, they are having their job elasticity is quite higher. Now, in the sales, there are two types of sales is there. One is this retail sales executives and the institutional sales.
Institutional sales, yes.
Yeah. So, in these two cases, which are more elastic?
Obviously, the retail sale will be more, no?
Okay, okay.
But you also have to design a variable pay, keeping in mind the size of the industry. And again, of course, the scope and the elasticity of the job, first of all, right? Huh?
Okay, yeah.
You
Okay.
cannot just have, and benchmark it with what are the other companies are also having. Benchmarking is very important. Yeah?
Okay, yeah.
You can't have a very high percentage of variable pay while other companies in similar industry are having a different percentage.
Correct.
Agreed?
Right.
Okay.
Ma'am, I have a question.
Please.
Um, so as you said, the supporting teams are revenue generators. There will be a discrepancy in the salaries, right? If you take
Come
only,
again. Please
uh,
come again. Support
the
functions, you said, yes?
support function and revenue generators.
Yeah.
Okay.
Operations, or you can say revenue
Yeah.
generation and cost.
If you support function, again there will be a subdivisions. Why there is a difference in between the salaries for sub functions?
Hmm. Hmm.
Why the
So,
difference? If you take payroll, it's a different. Comp is different. People operation is different. HR is different. So if you grow, then it will salaries will be very high. Why? Is there any reason for that? Because all comes under supporting function only.
um, are you talking about? I can hear that salaries are high and low, but
Mm.
I'm not.
Within supporting
Are you
function,
talking about why are the sub functions in the HR having differentiation in terms of salaries?
right?
See, I need to look through what roles are there, etc. Because I just can't respond just like that. No generalization here. Okay,
Mm.
maybe I need a little more input, and definitely we'll do this. Maybe you give me a little more input afterwards, and then we'll bring it up in the class to give a holistic approach. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, definitely, because this needs more data. All right.
Okay,
Because I
thank you.
don't have that much of time to take in data now, but we'll catch up offline and get more data on this. This is who? Mitali, or who is this?
Mama,
Mamata. Sure, Mamata, because you are actually doing payroll, so I can well imagine you will be having data as well. Okay,
okay.
good. All right. Because when you say why are getting high salary, salary has so many components, right? Huh? So I need to get more data on that. Okay. Now, having talked about performance pay, now what are the other kinds of variable pay? Very interestingly, there is one pay called merit pay. Now, merit pay can be further divided into two. What are they? Upskill and cross skill. Have you heard of these words? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
That means now organizations, say for example, most of the manufacturing organizations, etc., if they are hiring a welder, they will write there. If you also get trained and get certified and fitted, you will get an additional increment. Why do you think they do that?
It helps
Anybody? Why
to
do you
do
think they do
their
that?
job.
Huh?
It helps them for the succession planning. It could be like
Their
hiring from
skills which are
outside.
all
It is
corollary, means they all are on the same, in the same job category. This is typically a multi-skilling. If one person is not there, then what happens? The other person can pitch in. One is it helps in employee turnover, right? Then organizations need not recruit people for every skill. Okay. Also, it helps in retaining the employees, absenteeism, turnover, etc. Now, the most important thing. Typically, automobile organizations and some manufacturing organizations have actually reaped the benefits. They found that when we actually ensure that we are multi-skilled like this, then sometimes what happens suddenly, say for example, we are doing fitter and we said welder also you can get certified. And I find that in the market, there is a demand for welders and their salaries have gone up. Then I already have people who are certified. I will ship them into welders and then take fitters. Again, then they will be certified. So what is happening? I'm creating a talent pipeline where at a low cost, I'm hiring people. Then once they get certified, and then I don't have to go and buy in the market at the high price. Are you with me, guys?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So that, I'm sorry, that is called, this is called cross skills.
Cross skill.
Okay. Cross skills. So I was actually talking about cross skills. Now, when we talk about upskill, it is upskill. When you talk about cross skill, also look at most of these IT companies. They also have their coders getting certified into various technologies so that, there's a ready talent, human capital readiness available there. Okay. Now, what is upskill? Say, for example, I'm an insurance company or a bank. I have employed, hear me very clearly, I have employed a BCom graduate. Okay. At level 1 as an accountant. And I will tell him, hey, if in 2 years, if you get your CA part 1, you will get 1 additional increment. And in 3 years, you will get, if you, get your part 2, you will get 2 additional increments. And in 5 years, you can become an accounts manager. What have I created for him? What have I created for him? What have I showed for him?
Upskilling
Career
opportunity.
path.
Yeah.
A career path, telling him this is what you can become. So you upskill yourself and this is what. So what happens? I hire an accountant who is retained for 5 years and I get a good performer who knows everything. Are you getting me? This is called upskilling. In today's times, most of the organization, as you're aware, that attrition is money because if you are recruiting people, it costs a lot of money. So they are promoting cross-skilling, upskilling, so that they're able to retain people. Got it?
Yeah.
Clear career path and saying, hey, if this is what you can achieve, then you will become this. Got it? Very clear, guys? Okay.
So
Next.
also it motivates the person as well.
Yeah. So I told you that
For this
this is
upskilling,
attraction,
yeah,
motivation,
motivating.
because they are also becoming employable. The next is something called hardship allowance. What were mentioned? What is this hardship allowance? Simple example I'll give you.
Like night
When
shift job. I'm just giving one
exactly, when a
example.
call center guy works at night, what does he get? Night shift allowance, right? But instead of night shift allowance, why can't I factor that into his salary, into his base salary? Why should I give it as a separate night shift allowance? Tell me.
Because two things. One is like every day that employee might be every day he or she doesn't need to do work at night. One, and then if I include in the base, it will impact on the tax. So I can save his or her tax also by giving this amount separately. Might be.
If I incorporate in the base salary, for example, now he is not required to work in the night. I
Yeah.
shift him to the day shift. Then can I take away again? Once incorporated in the
Then
base
no,
salary. So
then no
therefore,
need to give this night shift. Yeah.
yeah. So therefore, it helps the organization to give an additional allowance when two people, typically, how is the defined hardship allowance when two people are doing the same job? Say, for example, a lot of you are working in payroll department. So there are 10 or 5 HR people working, payroll guys. But one payroll guy has to go collect cash and then drive 50 kilometers away to a remote construction site, disburse salary and come. Okay. Now, is it fair for me not to give him anything extra? Tell me yes, no.
Yes, we have to
I
compensate
have to
him.
give him? Huh? Why?
Some incentive should be there. Otherwise, he will may refuse to carry the money.
So he will say, why should I do? Everybody is doing that job. Why should I do something which is not there in my JD, additional job? So anything requiring additional and hardship, I need to give him, right? After 3 months, I may not, I will put another guy to go there. So anything additional, but if there is something which is of a permanent nature, then I need to incorporate it as a, because it is also for salary administration. The payroll guy will say, oh my God, anyway, this person is getting throughout the year. Why not we incorporate it? Why should it be as an additional allowance somewhere? So therefore, what happens is you are giving something a little over and above. If you are working, additional, or if you're working in a hardship. So can you give me some examples of hardship allowances in
Over,
your organization or somewhere?
Yeah,
overtime,
Pardon?
overtime.
Overtime, yes. Because you're working more hours. Okay?
yeah. In our organization, there are, I think, there are two types of hardship allowances there. One is
Mm.
those who are posted at the site, they are getting
Site allowance.
site allowance, and those who are posted in the cross this pipeline projects, and particularly in those area where there is a remote localities, so there
Hazardous or
hazardous and
remote.
and the remote allowances are also there.
Okay?
At the same time, another allowance is there that is also should come under the hardship, I think. That is we called as dislocation allowance. Means that when a person is settled, suppose in Assam, his family
Yes.
is staying at Varanasi, so he is sacrificing his entire family life.
Yes, there is
That is
dislocation allowance.
that is
Very
dislocation
correct,
allowance.
very correct. There is dislocation allowance. There is disturbance allowance.
Yeah.
Okay?
As
High
soon as the
zone.
family joins, the dislocation allowance we withdraw.
Highly disturbed, where, like if you're posted in Kargil and all, you'll get an extra allowance, right? High altitude allowance. Huh? Okay. So anything, crane allowance, rig allowance. Why do you think people in this merchant navy 3 months off, 3 months with the salary, they get 3 months holiday? So anything to do with hardship allowance. And the moment they are not doing that, then the allowance is withdrawn.
Withdrawn, yes.
Okay. Now the next one is market linked retention incentive. Anybody heard of this? MLRI?
Yes.
Allowance which is given, for example, suddenly, this year, a lot of small startups have started coming in and are looking for say, cloud computing or some tech skill sets. Okay. So what will you do?
It
What
could
will
be
people
hot
do in your
skill.
organization? They will say, hey, there are better salaries, let's go. So what you need to do suddenly, recognizing the fact that there is a sudden demand for this. So what will you do? You will do that it can be also called a hot skill
Hot skill allowance.
allowance, right? If you don't give, what happens? If you don't give hot skill allowance, what happens to your organization? You will actually lose a lot of your good people, and you will have to again go into the market and then buy them at double the market price. Okay. Now, when I was doing several programs, I was talking to TCS, Infosys. Now, most of the large or big organizations do not give hot skill allowance. Why do you think they don't give hot skill allowance? Any idea? Any clue?
Because they have
I'll
the
tell you
bench
what.
strength. Because they have the bench strength to cover
Who
up.
is this? Who is this?
Abhijit. Abhijit.
Great. Good point, Abhijit. Well taken. Absolutely. They told me that, ma'am, we also started giving hot skill allowance, but then there was a big ruckus, big conflict saying that, but our skill is also very, very critical and important. How come? Then we should also be getting some allowance. So to avoid this, they said no more hot skill. And what they do is they have bench strength. Now, to give a little more clarity on bench strength, I don't know if some of you have not heard of bench strength. People who have completed projects and they are waiting, to be deployed into new projects. It can take 1 month, it can take sometimes 2 months or 3 months, depending on the pipeline of projects. So, what big organizations do at that point of time when they are on a bench, they don't get variable pay. They only get base pay. Now, how do they retain these people? So, people on the bench, what will they do? They'll quickly look out for jobs and they would like to go. But if you're very good people and you want to retain them, so continuously large organizations, then they start giving them, skilling them, training them in the technologies which are in demand as per their pipeline of projects. So there is no, at any point of time, there is no question of a situation which, arises something like a hot skill allowance. Only the small organizations like the mom and pop, where they don't have bench strength and they have to constantly have these people all the time moving from one project to another. And suddenly they need, certain kind of skill sets which are becoming very hot, when they have to pay hot skill allowance to their people within the organization. But large organizations are able to create a pipeline and they're able to upskill their people who are already on the bench strength. Okay, is that very, very clear, guys? Huh? Yes, no, I don't know
Yes,
whether.
yes,
Huh?
yes.
Yes. If I were to ask a question, then I'm sure, huh? Okay. So what are the various type of variable pay plans you can have? Performance, hardship, upskilling, cross-skilling, and market-linked retention. Okay. Now, the next category is called deferred pay. Now, typically, when I have a large components of variable pay, especially for performance pay, then it is when I have a high performance strategy, then I will ensure that I focus on this component called performance pay incentives. Okay, because I want to ensure that my employees stretch themselves and increase the productivity, thereby increasing my profits.
Ma'am, I
Now,
have a question. I'm so sorry.
no, sure.
You mentioned the term bench strength. Why we
Yeah.
calling it as strength? Though this is where we are planning of a layoff actually. Like this is a part of a layoff.
Several organizations. So typically, why is it called bench strength? Means there are people who are on the bench who are not deployed with projects. Okay, huh? But it does not definitely say that that you are actually trying to as you stated. It depends, no. If there are not many projects in the pipeline, then obviously the underperformers or who have not done, they won't just get rid of people like that. They will definitely take into consideration who are those performers who have been consistently performing and I need to keep them. Who are those who have not really performed on certain projects and I need to reduce them. But again, it all depends on the number of people required and the vis-a-vis the number of people who are there as a bench strength. Yes, Nitin? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So you are saying why is it being called as strength, right?
Strength.
Huh?
Yeah. It's a negative term actually.
It's a negative. No. Do you these days there is nothing like what are your strengths and what are your weaknesses? Do we call them weaknesses? Areas for improvement, no? Huh?
Yes, it is
In
improvement.
HR,
Yes,
we
sir.
never call anything as a weakness, huh?
Negative. Yes, sir.
Right? So that is
Right.
why it is also called as bench strength. So when I say bench strength, what is the bench strength? I can say 10 numbers, 20 numbers, 30 numbers. Essentially, what is that number? People who have just completed projects waiting to be assigned on new projects, right? Now,
Got
say
it.
for example, in you are not seeing any light for the next 6 months or 10 months. There are no new projects, right? What will you do then? Then you will still look at those numbers and say, hey, are these people really wanting to keep? So that's the time you're also taking a call. Do I need to reduce? No. Do I need to keep them? Because you are only paying guaranteed pay at that point of time. Even their motivation levels are very low. You agree? Because they are not
Yes,
getting
ma'am.
any variable pay. They don't make money. They're also on the lookout for new jobs. So guys who have done good projects, they will always be looking out for good projects. Abhi ye project ho gaya, so let me go and look for another company which pays me, better salary with this kind of an experience. Okay, all right.
Got it.
Okay, so the next component is deferred pay. Deferred pay, as the name suggests, means deferring. So variable pay is typically for what? It is motivating. Base pay is for attracting. Okay. Deferred pay. Deferred pay means you do the work now, but you will get it later. So deferred pay is also called a retention tool. For example,
ESOP,
stocks,
it could be.
ESOPs, there are retention too. We'll talk about it when we are doing long-term incentives and short-term incentives, etc. So stocks, annuity plan. Why the payment is getting done later? What is an annuity plan? Typically, it is offered like a superannuation to middle-level people or top-level people who are sitting on high salaries. Now, if these people actually have to pay high taxes, so in order to to reduce the tax burden, they will offer an annuity plan saying instead of this getting deducted as tax, certain amount you can actually invest it. So the company then will invest it in LIC. So you get this amount, of course, with tax at the end of it when you get. So you will get it, but not immediately. So this is actually an investment. Annuity, you get it later. And rather than as getting tax deducted as tax today, month on month, you are saving. Okay. So that's called an annuity plan. An annuity plan cannot be opted just by one person. The organization has to actually go for it, like a superannuation plan. Retention bonus. What is this retention bonus? I'm sure all of you are familiar
We
with this.
can pay such amount after like might be 6 months or 1 year just to retain that employee.
Will you pay to everybody retention bonus?
No,
Or
Those whose performance are good, and we are retaining them for a year or maybe so. For every completed year, he is getting a bonus of the a lump sum amount.
so
But his
typically the way,
performance should be there.
so the way it works like this, retention bonus, how does it work? You have certain critical positions, not necessarily they are at a top level or a middle level. Critical positions, which are actually very, strategic to the organization, right? Huh? Like I said, where is it? In a construction site, a site manager becomes very, very critical, or an operational manager for a certain process becomes very, very critical. Now, in a project, maybe one project guy becomes very critical. So maybe you will not find many retention plans for support people because they are huge in supply. It should not really matter to hire somebody. But all these critical positions, which are of strategic nature and they have an impact on the operations. So, what they will do, they'll say to ensure continuity and ensure that, say, hey, we have to have this person for at least 3 years. So, you have a retention bonus. What does it mean? That you are not, you will say, hey, when you are hiring him, you will say, this is the amount we are going to give you. It could be 15,000, 20,000, 30,000, depending on the level, grade, and the strategic nature. Okay. Then you don't pay the entire amount at one go. You will pay it in installments every year, percentages. Say this year I'll pay, say for example, for 3 years if the retention plan, maybe I'll pay 20% this year, 20% next year, and the larger percentage I pay in the last year. Now, if a person stays for all the 3 years, then he gets his amount. If he doesn't stay He doesn't get it. Are you with me? It doesn't mean that, oh, you gave me a retention bonus, irrespective of my tenuity there, I have to get my bonus. It is not like that. So, first year percentage 10%, you have stayed for the first year, okay, you get this amount. The third year will be the maximum 60% or 75%. If you have not stayed, you will not get it. Similarly, stocks. What do you do? How do you get your stocks? Say, for example, Mamta. She's a very good employee. She's doing a great work. So the company will say, hey, we're doing very good work. So here is a letter offering, 500 shares at this particular price. Now, and you can, buy them. So there is something called a vesting period after 2 years. Okay. This is just a piece of paper now. So after 2 years, now she can buy this 500 shares at that particular price. Say, for example, she has been offered 10 rupees and the market is offering at 5 rupees. She need not go and buy it at an overprice. She can take a choice. She said whether she wants to buy. Okay, fine. I won't buy because this market is much lesser than what they have offered. Because maybe at that point of time. So it's a choice. But then again, afterwards, she can again buy them after when the market is heating up. So if there's a choice, but definitely there is something called vesting period. That means she can't buy them till that. Why is that vesting period given, which is called? That means ensure that the employee stays for that long. Okay, we will do a little more on ESOPs. How does it work, etc. From the HR perspective. We may not do it from the finance perspective in detail because that will involve a lot of time. But definitely, how does it work? What is the role of the HR person? We'll definitely work on that. So this part, direct pay, is understood, guys? Clear?
Yes.
Any questions? We'll move to the indirect. So indirect is very simple. So the organization, in order to attract, depending on their strategy, they'll say, hey, of course, under protection programs again, with respect to social security, pensions, etc. There is written meals. It is not a protection program. Sorry, I will delete
Madam,
that.
I have a question.
Just
one small clarification. In
Hmm.
some cases, we have seen that when the people are when the requirement of the people is very critical, particular for a role is critical, and we are headhunting the other person from our company. There are one provision is there in case of extreme emergency that notice pay this refund policy that the person has to join early from the other organization, and whatever the notice shortfall is there, that amount to be paid by the hiring organization.
Right.
So it is booked under which category? Direct pay or indirect pay, or it is?
That is not a direct pay or indirect pay. That is a cost as a part of the recruitment cost, because you are in a hurry and you cannot wait for the other person whom you have actually selected and interviewed and taken him on board. You can't wait for him to complete his notice period from the other previous employer. Okay, so why should he if he, because he's under a contract of 1 month notice or 2 month notice period. So before selection, sir will say I'm under a 2 month notice period. So therefore, if you want him to join early, then you will have to pay that notice period and then take him.
Okay, fine.
So that becomes a part of your recruitment cost.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Yeah, because not going into his pocket now. It is going. You agree?
Ma'am, is joining bonus or signing bonus? Is it also comes under recruitment bonus?
So that bonus is something which is you are giving him for this guy, because he's joining. So because he's also a premium talent, maybe you are giving him additional. So joining bonus is also a part of pay. Okay. Yeah. All right. Now, so under protection programs, typically mandatory, what are they? Just ignore meals. So health insurance is statutory, right? Pension, PF, gratuity, etc., which form a part of the social security. Then again, pay for time not worked. That is statutory. What is that? Maternity leave, sick leave, what is it? Earned leave, All these are what? Statutory leaves. But emergency leave and vacation leave, something which over and above what as per the statutory thing is given, then these are all some things which they differ from organization to organization. Like, for example, Google says, if you have worked on a project, after 3 months, says, okay, you can take a vacation for 3 days or 4 days at the expense of the organization. They give you everything. So that is something not statutory, but that's a benefit which the organization is giving. Now, when we talk about services and perks, again, this is a scope for employer branding so that you can become an employer of choice. Say, for example, all these today you are having what? Wellness facilities, right? And you can actually list out so many things in terms of both at a physical level, at a mental level, psychological level. I'm sure they were not 2 decades ago, nobody gave anything for a psychiatric treatment or a counseling sessions, having psychiatrists or a but today you have counselors, everything with regard to wellness programs, both mental and physical, is on the increase, especially after the COVID. Okay. Along with it, you also give financial planning facilities, low cost meals, recreation facilities, etc. But the most important thing I want to talk about is every organization, depending on the value or the kind of philosophy it has or what it wants to actually establish. Like, say, for example, if I'm a training organization, what will I do? I'll give my employees what? At much less cost or maybe free training, right? Certification. If I'm a merchandise company, what will I do? I can give some merchandise clothes, no? Or if I'm a bank, what will I do typically? What will I do? What will I give to my
More
employees?
loan in less interest.
Free loan or loan with less interest. Airtel, if I'm an internet or a company, what will I do? Like Airtel gives free time of 2,000 rupees, etc. So why do they give? To create that branding, right? To create that, if I'm an insurance company, maybe at a lesser premium. So what I want you all to do quickly, so what's the time? Guys, you have just 10 minutes of breakout activity and we are going, huh? I want you all to take one of any of your own company, and quickly write fixed pay that everybody gives, okay? What kind of variable pay you have and what kind of benefits? Only one company. That means not all 4 companies or 4 members, all right? And you are having this pay mix. Create what? Is it a performance strategy, high performance strategy, or a high retention strategy? That's all. What is that you need to do? Take an Excel sheet, just write what are the kind of components for just one company, any company, all right? Especially variable pay and benefits. And then write whether it's a high performance strategy or a retention strategy. Is that very clear? Who is going to share? Yeah.
So I was discussing with Nitin and Shri. So this is the components that we have in our organization.
In general, I can see. Okay. Okay. Gross pay statutory, all right. Variable component, sales, because you have sales people, all
Yes.
right. Benefits, medical insurance, all right. So this is a general reward strategy where you are looking at, because there are some sales incentives. So maybe, performance strategy in the sense, because for sales people, if they don't perform, if they don't increase their sales, then they
Will
will
not
not.
get the sales
So,
incentive.
yeah, so right.
So it is
But
more aligned towards performance pay.
yeah, but you
But a
may
major
have some
chunk,
key.
but a major chunk of it is fixed.
Yeah, so you may have some key people. What is the nature of your industry?
It's a media organization.
This industry you have discussed, which is this industry? Media?
Media, yeah.
Media. Okay. Media. So there could be some 1 or 2 key people will be there. There could be some retention strategy for them as well, but it will be an individual kind of a thing.
Individual level, but generally this is the basic components.
Okay. Good job, guys. Good job. This
Should
is
I
just to get
stop
an
sharing?
understanding. Yeah.
Yes.
Somebody else.
So basically we focused, my team members were like Mamta and Ru. So we focused on to retain those kind of employees who are like high performer. Our industry, you can say IT industry. So direct amount we mentioned, then variable components we mentioned, and then indirect pay we mentioned.
So I can see something like, especially for this high performance and retention guys, joining bonus. Yeah. So typically when you want to attract people and all, joining
Yeah,
bonus is something which you're giving. So, okay. By
right.
going by the nature of that industry. Okay. Then you are giving dislocation allowance and car allowance, etc., etc. Okay. Well-being, etc. Medical, because yes, the focus is on well-being. Okay. And all kinds of leaves. All right. Okay. Good. Good job, guys. Good job. Okay. Good job.
Thank you.
Welcome. Okay.